Hey, pool chasers. I hope you're having a great holiday season. On this episode, we're going to share a panel discussion that I moderated at the International Pool Spa and Patio Show this year in Vegas. It is a live recording, so the audio can fade in and out a little bit depending on where the guests were sitting, but the content is so good that we thought we wanted to share it. This is episode 227 with Hal, Harry, Robert, and Nathan of National Pool Partners. Enjoy!
Welcome to your go-to podcast for the pool and spa industry. My name is Tyler Rasmussen.
And my name is Greg Viafania. And this is the Pool Chasers Podcast.
All right, welcome everybody to Hiring, Managing, and Leading Pool Service. My name is Tyler Rasmussen. I'm the co-host of the Pool Chasers Podcast, also previous co-owner of Brothers Pool Service in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm going to be moderating here today. So we have a couple pre-planned questions, one for hiring, one for managing, one for leading, and we'll go in that order. And then after that, we will bring the mic around and you guys can answer any questions you want on those three topics. So first, can you guys introduce yourselves and your previous role and your current role?
Yeah, my name is Hal Denbar, and I'm from Austin, Texas. I started my last semester of college cleaning swimming pools. The week I graduated, started Patio Pool and Spa in Austin, Texas. 5 years as a one-poler before we started picking up some momentum and eventually grew to be the largest residential pool service provider in Austin, Texas. Back in 2020, ended up connecting with Matt Stevenson, who is on our board of directors of National Pool Partners, and Augusto Tittarelli, our CEO, and started talking about what an idea of a company like National Pool Partners would be. We got further down the path and decided it looked like a fun idea, so we started National Pool Partners, and at this point I run national operations for National Pool Partners. So I've had a really fun, unique opportunity to basically perform every job function between a single pool owner-operator to running an operation of 500 pool people. So been able to see a little bit of everything that the service industry has to provide, and it's been a fun ride along the way.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Harry Geller. I'm the Vice President of Human Resources for National Pool Partners. Prior to joining National Pool Partners, I was the owner of Magnolia Pool and Spa, a pool service and repair company in Southwest Florida. We had about 1,000 pools at the time we sold to National Pool Partners. My experience has been in 3 different industries in retail, construction, and education. Have found that the pool service is probably the most challenging of all the industries, but the most exciting. And we've been with National Pool Partners for just over a year.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Robert Daniels. I was the general manager of Pool Doctor in Cape Coral, Florida. Started there in 2005, worked my way up as every position you can think of there. The end of 2021, we joined National Pool Partners, and from there I've gone a different path. I'm now director of continuous improvements, and I look forward to it. It's going to be really, really fun. So.
Nathan White. I started cleaning swimming pools when I was 19. That was about 2001. Fort Worth, Texas. Worked for a small family company, about 5 people. Did that for about 12 years, just clean pools. I love doing it. Moved to Austin, Texas, jumped around to a couple different companies. Eventually met Hal. I was like employee number 4 or 5 at the time. So that was about almost 9 years ago. I started working with Patio Pool and Spa. So clean pools there, did green and clean turnarounds. I was a repair tech, did route management, repair management, and now I am the general manager of Patio Pool and Spa, which sold to National Pool Partners in 2021. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Awesome, thank you. So we're going to start with the hiring question. So what were you doing to source talent? And then once you had that talent in the door, what did you do to retain it?
So sourcing, there's all the traditional places you can post jobs, and those have worked fine. But our experiences, we grew from 1 person to 45 people pretty quickly in Austin. was employer referrals was always the absolute best way to do it. To incentivize your whole team, but hope that the best people on your team were the ones that really grabbed onto it. And because my experience is I typically found that A players hang with other A players, whether it's at work or at home. And so trying to encourage them to bring in people that were like-minded and would come in also with a little more knowledge as to what it is we were doing, a more favorable attitude because they had frame of reference as to what it was. And not only did we typically find that they would be the best hires, they would be the hires that would stick the longest. Because then also there's sort of that added accountability of, well, my friend brought me in here and I don't want to disappoint anybody. And so it just adds that extra layer of accountability from the employee standpoint, which really benefits us as employers.
So we used to try to really cast a wide net and try to attract as many applicants as we could. There's a ton of online resources, places to post positions, Indeed, Craigslist, Facebook. There's a whole lot of places. We'd also post at the suppliers, kind of along with everybody else. You'd have the job boards there. One of the things that actually worked for us was if you had a little tear off, even though in today's environment, everybody could just take a photo and call you later. If you had a little tear off, that seemed to draw people to call us with the phone number. So you'd cut a whole bunch of slits with the phone numbers and your name on it. But one of the most important things for retention actually starts in the interview process. A lot of times, if you go in for a job interview, one of the biggest things that you want to do is make a really good first impression, right? So when you go in for a job interview, you want to look professional, you want to put on a nice shirt, and you want to make a really good first impression. When you're interviewing people, you have to be really careful about that very first impression, because sometimes a first impression can be very negative or it could be very positive. And so when you're interviewing somebody, you have to be able to dig in and see past that initial first impression to learn about who they are, what motivates them, what drives them, and how they're going to fit into your organization. And that's really the first step of retention is hiring the right people and interviewing the right people right from the beginning.
Yeah, we use social media a lot. Every outlet you can think of, from Craigslist, Facebook, Indeed, signs outside in front of the retail store. But really, we're only looking for service technicians, because every other position we like to promote from inside. So that retains our current employees too. They have a career path. They want to go up and go up and go up in the company. And the House Point, employee referrals were the best. They try to bring in, friends, even, somewhat close relatives, and they don't want to let each other down. So that's the best. But promoting from inside has been just phenomenal, because you keep all the same employees. Everyone is there. They know what's going on, and you just have to focus on replacing the service end. Repair was a promotion spot. Any admin inside the office, retail. So promoting from the inside was our best route.
I can mirror everything they said. One of the things that after a couple of years of doing interviews and hiring people that I came to realize was that I'm hardwired different than the people that I'm going to be sitting across from whenever they're getting their chance at a first impression, but so am I. And after using a kind of a personality test type deal, I figured out that some people, for no fault of their own whatsoever, mainly because of how I'm hardwired, I'm gonna come across someone and I'm just, for whatever reason, I'm not gonna like them, no good reason whatsoever. But I'm an employer, so I don't need to let that weird random vague thing that I'm thinking I'm not sure get in the way. So one of the big things I did was just started getting out of my own way. If somebody can, show up on time for an interview, do all the things that you would normally expect, and just because I might not necessarily have a warm, fuzzy feeling about them, I need to give them a chance, because some of the people that I didn't think during that first impression, for whatever vague reason, weren't going to make it, are some of my best employees that I still have today, 5 years later. So that's one of the big lessons that I learned over the years doing hiring. And when it comes to retention, all the stuff they said works. There's all the different kinds of things you do. My philosophy is kind of simple. I try to be the boss that I always wanted. Most bosses kind of suck. Sorry if you're a boss and you suck. That's I try to be the boss that I wanted. That works pretty well. I have a decent amount of empathy, so I can read people. And one of the things that we work, I think, way too much in life, and so like trying to make that work environment that we spend so much of our time in a better time than it has to be, right? Like we have to do good work. We have to take care of our customers. We have to take care of our employees at a base level. But like trying to make that culture better than minimum requirement, right? Like make it a fun place to work, make it a cool place to work. Like tell people that you appreciate them, in whatever way makes sense. So since they put me in charge, like that's not optional. So all of my managers are supposed to do that too. So there's no one on my leadership team that's an a-hole to their employees, right? Like that stuff won't fly, as long as I'm in charge. So I need cool bosses on my team so that the people who work for them actually want to stick around. So.
Let's move on to managing then. So were there any operating systems that you put in place to help manage your team?
Y'all want a snake or keep the same order? I'm good either way.
What's the question?
Thanks, Dan. Were there any operating systems you put in place to help manage your team?
Yeah, I'll take that. Specifically for managing the team, I think, years ago we started using Slack, kind of like WhatsApp. So like when we first started communicating, we would use iMessage. That became very, very messy after like 6, 7, 8 employees. So we started using Slack, and instead of having just a bunch of DMs that you can label that you don't really have a lot of control over, like anyone can kind of make a channel or a team or a chat, and that might not necessarily fit with like the organization of your company, right? So you can have a chat that has all the people in the service department, but it's not called service department, and it doesn't necessarily have only the people in the service department communicating. So efficiencies in communication chains, whatever way makes sense. Slack is one of those things that you can actually set controls and pick what groups make sense. So like departments that are always going to be a thing, right? Like having a chat specifically for your repair team, having a chat specifically for your cleaning team, for your finance team, and have those always be in the same place with the right people in them, versus just a million different text messages and chats that kind of disappear in your thread over time, the way that chat works. So we use Slack for that. We've iMessage, Slack. We recently switched to Teams. And either way they work pretty good. I've heard WhatsApp is a good one. Any sort of messaging app where you can actually have some controls over what channels are handling communication.
Yeah, I mean, we did practically the same thing, but we used, for any of you gamers out there, we used Discord. So we had the Discord server set up. You can only join that server through an invite. So you invite them in there, and you have the different channels. Same thing, we had help archives. You can put up pictures, videos, product information. So any new hires too can reference that and see, okay, this is what kind of skimmer basket this is. This is what kind of filter this is. So when they do call the office or need to call the customer, they aren't just trying to figure out what that filter is. They can send it on over. You get an answer from their supervisors, office employees, what have you, and it holds that message there. So 6 months down the road, any other employee can go in there, look, and go, oh, that's what that filter is. Videos, you can put videos up there. What was really good is having a supervisor go out, evaluate a route, make sure the technician's doing everything he or she is supposed to do, and upload all the pictures right there on the channel with the readings, what they're finding, and it's not just hearsay. All the proof is right there. You can sit down with the employee afterwards, go over everything that was found, teach them, show them what's wrong, show them the right way to do it, and it's there. They can reference it later. It was an absolute game changer, and it's free. Videos, you put up videos there. The help archive is amazing. You can put anything up there from repairs to your service plans for the new technicians once they get out there on their own the first day. Everything they learned is gone for that first day. so they can go there and they can look at it, read it, refresh their memory, and it's there. It's an archive of very solid information that relates to your business, your company directly. So that was one of the best moves we ever made.
So as a small business, like a lot of pool businesses, we used the service program and QuickBooks. We also had GPS tracking for our trucks so we could track where everybody's at. And the biggest thing, though, I think regardless of what operating system you use, is the disciplines for the team to use the program. So for example, if you require your teams to take photos and they don't take photos, then it's doing a disservice to your company and your customer. Or if you require your team to clock in when they get to a pool and clock out when they get to a pool, and they always choose not to do that, and so they're there for no time or 1 minute on the clock, it's a disservice to the customer, it's a disservice to the program. So it's really about setting accountability with the system that you have, and then holding people accountable for it. Is what I found, and that's where we had success with our operating systems.
So I'm going to go a different way with systems rather than the software, and more playbook, right? Sort of organization of people in the business. And the book Traction, if it's very popular now, it was less so when I just happened upon it many years ago. If you haven't read it or don't have it yet, go buy it tomorrow. Whether you already have a larger company with many employees, or it's still just you and you're dreaming of getting to that point, it is essentially just an operational playbook of how to run your business, how to run meeting cadences. It's been proven out by thousands of users. I mean, it just flat out works. And so there's really not a reason to go reinvent the wheel, and unless you just are dying to, because there's already a playbook out there that has worked countless times. And we implemented it, I think, I'm trying to think how many years ago it was, Nathan, but the first...
About 5 years ago, maybe.
Probably 5 years ago at Patriot, and there's actually a whole sort of niche industry of professional facilitators that's developed around this book, but that's not necessary to make it work. We did it for I think the first year and a half. I just read through it and I was like, I think we can just do this. And so, I sort of tried to facilitate while also participating, and we used it for about a year and a half. It was very successful. But then we also did notice, while I was trying to split time facilitating and participating, my participation was definitely suffering because I was trying to focus on keeping things on task. So at that point we did outsource and bring in an outside facilitator, and it just took us next level, because then you as the owner-operator can fully devote your brain to the creativity of participating, rather than also trying to just completely moderate every meeting along the way. So that from a systems perspective, Traction is a no-brainer way to run your business. Traction by Gino Wickman. Gino Wickham, I think, or Wickman. Yeah.
Awesome. So once we hire them, we're managing them, buy-in is a whole different thing, right? So how do you get the team to get to a point where they buy into the system, where they buy into what you're doing as a company?
So out of the gate, Nathan nailed it. And I think clearly we've worked together for many years now, so there's a lot of alignment there in terms of how we see the field, and in terms of the business we would want to build, being the business we would want to work for. What was the actual prompt again? Because there was a second thing. Buy-in.
How do you get
So another piece that I think I'm going to talk about Traction a lot today, probably because it's so influential and how we've done things. With Traction, one of the pieces that is the scariest as a business owner, as you roll it out, is the level of financial transparency you need to give your people, and operational transparency to give your people, so that they know how to win, and know how to move the business forward. And so I had tons of anxiety before we rolled it out, because to that point, as the owner-operator, I sort of kept everything secret, right? And I think that's a natural tendency for us as owners. Traction completely blows that up. You need to have numbers out there, whether it's the total finances, KPIs, the team needs visibility into that to know how to succeed. And I remember for, I think, the week before rolling it out, I was just a ball of nerves, because I was like, okay, here you go, we're showing everybody everything, and but the buy-in that achieves is phenomenal. Because once people want to know how to win, and when you show them how to win, they can actually go do it. And so for us, it took just retention, employee buy-in, completely next level. When you're able to be that vulnerable with your people and show them things that traditionally in business weren't out in the open, they're ready to go do whatever it takes to win.
I think the other thing that gets buy-in is when people really know where they stand and what their contribution is to the organization. Every level is a little bit different. So if you think about in a typical pool service business, that you have a pool tech or repair tech, their job is to win the day. The supervisor, they got to plan and win the week. The manager has to win the month. And as the owner, you got to win the quarter or the year, right? Everybody's looking at something a little bit differently. And so it's setting realistic goals and objectives. We ask our pool techs to do certain things, and we want them to do things like we do, right? We want them to think like us. But in many cases, that's not their job. Their job is to focus on a certain set of objectives for the day and to make it clear what those objectives are so that they can win that day and they can come back and feel the reward. Same with your supervisors, managers, and yourself, setting objectives for yourself, for your goals of where you want your business to be and how you want to accomplish that. I find that it's always good to put it down in writing and establish a business plan for yourself and for your business, and then check how you're doing on the business plan. When you work for a big company, you do that all the time, right? So for those of you that work for big companies, we're always checking on the business, on where we're at weekly, monthly, quarterly. But in a small business, you have to do that yourself and have those disciplines. And that's what we used to do, is try to establish a plan for what we wanted to do for the year and then check back in on that.
I think it starts right at the application. So we like to put our culture description right at the top of the application, a nice long story. They read that first, and they're either going to opt themselves out or in right at that point too. They're going to say, hey, I'm going to fit into this company or I'm not. Once they accept that and they have the interview, be perfectly honest with them. Don't sugarcoat it, make it sound like it's the most wonderful job there is, because anyone brand new is looking at the movies, the TV series, and looking at that pool technician and going, okay, yeah, I can do that. Real life, it's not that simple. So let them know exactly what they're coming in for. So if they make it through the application, through the interview, and they start, it's not all false promises in their mind. They know what they're signing up for. And then from there, just make sure you're always straightforward with them. If they're going down the wrong path, correct it for them. If they're going down the right path, keep incentivizing that and make it known, because there's nothing worse in a company than you have a ton of just rock stars and they're looking at 2 or 3 terrible employees that are getting away with everything. That will destroy your company quicker than anything. So just honesty and straightforward, just tell them exactly how it is. They're going off that path, correct it. If they're on the right path, incentivize it and make it known. Just 1, 2, 3 bad employees can destroy your entire culture, your entire company, because everything is being said is not being said in front of you. So they're out communicating, and you want those to be good conversations, not terrible conversations. So
every employee is going to be a little bit different. I think the bulk of the service industry is entry-level cleaning positions, and I think a lot of people in the workforce right now, especially in the last couple of years, they're wondering why they should give a shit to go to work, right? And you can judge that whatever way you want. But my take is to model my why, like why I come to work. I actually like people. That's not everybody's thing. There's a lot of people like, I don't like people, get away from me. I like people. I like to learn hard things that I'm not good at, and then I like to teach those things. I've never been passionate about the swimming pool industry. I don't care about pools. I've been in it for 21 years, but I care about people. And so I use that why, that I care about people, that I care about teaching, that I care about, but no, that's pretty much it. I use that to drive me. That's my passion going into work. So part of that is modeling to my employees, bringing a passion, bringing my why into why I come to work. And part of it is being consistent in listening to people, creating an environment where my employees feel like they can come to me and yell at me if they want to, even, versus being super quiet and agreeable inside the office. And then as soon as they go out in the parking lot, you see, people hanging around and talking nonstop for 45 minutes in the parking lot when they didn't have anything to say inside. That means I'm failing in creating an environment where people will actually potentially get buy-in and figure out why they should give a shit. And when you finally reach a magic moment where people are talking to you and giving you feedback, even if you don't like it, that's the moment when you listen. Because especially in this labor force, when you actually start to get buy-in and people are like scratching the surface of like wanting to give you feedback, you have to honor that and listen to it and take action on it and realize that's valuable, because that's your moment as a leader to get that buy-in and put it to use. So that's my take on it.
We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we talk about employee accountability, KPIs or key performance indicators, managing team meetings, and a few tricks for interviewing a potential employee. This episode is brought to you by Leslie's. Leslie's continues to deliver for pool trade professionals by providing benefits no one else can offer. The Leslie's Pro Partner Program can help you grow your business through referrals while also providing their most exclusive pricing and best-in-class warranties on equipment. The Leslie's Pro Partner Program is for pros looking to build a true partnership with their supplier. Stop by your local Leslie's to learn how you can become a pro partner today, or check out episodes 151 and 165 of the podcast for more details. This episode of the Pool Chasers podcast is also brought to you by The Attendant. The Attendant, powered by Poolside Tech, is the latest in pool automation. Their system offers innovative features and applied intelligence to help it think and communicate with both pool pros as well as the homeowner. It offers features such as syncing your DMX lights to Spotify, built-in water leveling, dirty filter detection, and my favorite, Airbnb mode, which allows a pool owner to grant access to users with restrictions to specific pool features or defining set points for heating events. User access can also expire at a specific time. Best of all, the Attendant is vendor agnostic, so it's compatible with the equipment from existing manufacturers on the market today. Learn more at poolside.tech or check out episode 194 of the podcast.
So when you guys mentioned kind of the accountability piece with that, did you guys hold employee reviews or anything to manage that accountability?
Yeah, we definitely had random reviews and scheduled reviews and evals, and always gave them the benefit of the doubt. Let them describe where they went wrong and also where they went right. And like Nathan was talking about, the what's, the hows, and the whys. So they know what they're doing. They should know how they're doing it, but most of them do not know why. So if sometimes they're doing what they think is right. But when they do it wrong, they don't know why that's wrong. So you definitely need to describe that to them and inform them why it's wrong. You'd be surprised how many weren't doing it on purpose. So once you correct that with them, explain the why, they'll actually go have that conversation Nate was talking about outside with everybody and go, oh, well, this is what it was. It wasn't that I was not trying to do my job. I just didn't understand why. So that the what, how, and why is huge.
We coach on the spot, on the fly. When stuff comes up, we'll pull somebody typically same day, if not the very next morning. We also do annual reviews at a minimum, and because we coach on the fly and give people straightforward feedback, usually the review is just talking about how the year went as a whole. There shouldn't. In my opinion, there shouldn't be new information when you sit down with an employee for a 1-year review where you're telling them something that you should have told them like 6 months ago. So we coach on the fly. That way people can get the information as soon as they can. That way they know if they're messing something up or if there's something new they need to know, they can choose to correct it as soon as possible.
The other thing you can do too that has really helped is depending on what positions are in your company, have the employees write down what they do, and then also have them write down what they think they're supposed to do. Compare those two. You'll be surprised.
You can have the accountability piece, I think, built into your actual meeting cadence as well. It doesn't have to be individual one-on-one every single time that this occurs, right? And going back to traction, that is built into the meeting cadence. Like the past, you have a scorecard at the beginning of every weekly meeting. And you'll create whatever KPIs it is that is the information that you think is important to run your business. But in real time, each week as you go through this meeting, it's one of the very first pieces of the meeting. It's a 5-minute segment. Let's review what they are. And so, by doing that, there's immediately that accountability is brought, and those discussions will occur in real time. Whether it's, hey, finance team, our accounts receivable is higher than it should be because we're all looking at it on the screen while we're having this meeting. What's going on? Let's dig into that. Or, repair team, it looked like, our production last week is much lower than the last 4 weeks. What's going on? So let's figure out, do we need to troubleshoot what this is? And so having something that puts it in front of you every single week just starts those conversations more organically than having to schedule something, every quarter or year or more.
One more thing to find out what might be going really well in your company and really bad too is have everyone give you one thing they really, really like, one process they really like, and one process they just don't understand why it even exists. And all of a sudden you have, a large amount of the same process that nobody understands why it exists and why they even do it, that you didn't even realize. It can be changed, and all it is just asking that question that they wouldn't tell you otherwise, and it'll make a world of difference.
You want to touch on that, Harry, from an HR perspective, maybe?
Well, yeah. So I got a couple of point of views. One, from an operational perspective, we always found that when people have measures, key measures, Hal mentioned KPIs, the numbers, in theory, they don't lie, right? So number of pools per day, time per stop, whatever you're measuring productivity-wise in your business, so that everybody knows where they stand. The second part, though, regarding the accountability is a lot of times, so when I put on my HR hat, a lot of times the hardest thing that managers do is talk to people and look them in the eye and give them feedback. It is really one of the hardest things for people to do. And a lot of times what we've seen happen is I talk to Hal about a person that there's a problem with. I talk to Robert, I talk to Nathan. Everybody knows that there's a problem with the person, but yet I've never taken the chance to talk to the person. And then it builds up one day and I just want to terminate them or let that person go. And so from an accountability standpoint, what I find is that the first thing you really need to do, that we all need to do, is talk directly to the person and give them the feedback. Use your peers as a source for guidance and to, as a gut check, but giving the feedback directly to the person. What I found is over the years, I've never actually had to fire anybody. It's really rare that I've actually ever had to terminate somebody's employment. Usually by that point, they've terminated themselves, right? They didn't follow the plan that we asked to put in place. They didn't meet the goals and objectives or the numbers, or they violated a policy or a procedure that they already knew about. So by the time you get to the termination meeting, they've already know they're going to be terminated, and it's not a surprise to them.
And one thing I realized too is, because I know we probably have people at every stage of employment and every stage of entrepreneurship, KPI, in case you don't know it, is key performance indicator. So just a metric to track whatever it is you're tracking.
That was going to be my question. But you were mentioning those, though, from your former businesses. What were a few of those that you were tracking that you always like to look at?
Yeah, so repair department revenue. So how much we did in sales the prior week, how much we bought the prior week, to see if there were spikes in the repair department, the cleaning department. That way you can figure out if there was waste or if we're not charging enough. A lot of things that are sales oriented. Clearly, as a small business, is very, very vital, because if you want to eat, you got to make sure that you're making money. So those were always, for me as the owner, front and center as far as what I was looking at every week, to make sure we were healthy, we could keep everybody employed, and I could feed the family.
Anybody else?
We looked a lot at drive time. There were, so as a small business, we could track pretty easily how frequently people were stopping at the gas station or how long their drive time was. And so we wanted to bring drive time down to have efficiency in the routes was something we measured.
Employee culture guy here. We counted shout outs, like how many times a customer would reach out and give an employee a compliment. We tracked that. We tracked online reviews. That way we know if we're getting consistent feedback from customers, reputation wise. We counted how much it cost when we screwed up. That was a good thing to track, because usually if you get a big number pop up, you can dig into those things. Like, mistakes happen, but if you start to see trends in those mistakes that you're consistently paying for, that can feed meeting content where you're like, all right, we need to talk about this thing. 3 people tripped over a chlorinator hose last week. Like, we need to talk about being more mindful. So.
Yeah, I mean, they all hit it on the head, but another good one too, if you have a fairly large repair department, is keep track of the follow-ups and see how many follow-ups are repeat follow-ups. Because at that point, your team knows nothing about that particular repair, and that's what you need to focus on next. And then once that's gone, look at the next one. Okay, this PVC leak on, this filter. Every time you have a follow-up, you're losing money there, and it's repeat. Let's have a little training on that and get caught up. So,
and Nathan reminded me of one that we had that I think was a little unique that goes to this topic that Robert mentioned earlier about promoting from within and moving people from within all the time. One thing that worked really well for us that I'm a huge advocate for is even office positions that don't typically or necessarily need pool experience. I loved trying to staff all of those with people who had been in the field in some form or capacity, or had worked at distribution, or could speak the language. And so that was always important. And we would move people around, say, you realize someone's not going to hang in 105-degree heat, but they love the industry, they love the environment of the company, and they show some aptitude for doing things that we would need in the office. Let's move them into the office. And where I'm going with this is one of our KPIs was legit complaints. Because since every single one of us in the office at Patriot knew the industry and had lived it, we could very easily, it would make sense to track complaints, right? But we all know oftentimes customers give us complaints that are not legit. And so we would make sure to address the ones that were real, but also be able to vet out the ones that really didn't require addressing and talking to somebody on the team about.
And that's a good point too, and it helps with retention. Something that most companies have always believed in and went by, and I'm against it. Where they say the customer's always right. My opinion, they're not. I've actually told a customer that to their face, that they're not. That you're not right. I'm sorry, but if you always take the customer's side, regardless, your team's not going to like you. If the customer's right, the customer's right. But if the customer's completely wrong, you need to have your team's back and nicely, professionally let that customer know. But that's huge. And the other thing that Hal was talking about with, hey, I love this job, I love this, and I love that is last year, 2 years ago, I had everybody in my company write down what they thought about their job. And some say, it's good, it's all right, I like it. We have a few say, I absolutely love it. So the ones who love it, they're in there for the long run. So, you don't like your wife or your husband, you love them, So finding that too. So I really like just one-off questions and answers, and it tells you a lot about each one of your employees and how you're doing. So,
Nathan, can you talk about your team meetings and how you manage some of those service team meetings and things like that? Because I think that's a big culture piece that I know you guys at Patriot have that a lot of people struggle with. When it's early morning and nobody feels like they care. How do you manage a team and get them to really engage in that?
Oh, to do consistent meetings? Yeah. The meetings have to make sense. Meeting to have a meeting because everybody's confused. The easiest way to make people not want to show up and fall asleep in the middle of the meeting. Have a scorecard that tracks things that matters to everyone in the room. If it's your cleaning team, track how many weekly cleaning customers you have that week. Track customer shout outs and do them publicly. The whole praise publicly and critique, in private, stuff like that. Be consistent yourself as a leader. Show up on time to the meeting that you're making everybody go to. Mind for content. We have a section in our meeting that I pull out, not every single week, because that would be a little ridiculous, but I have a meeting section that's called What Sucks. And I just ask everybody, what sucks right now in the business? And we mine content that way. That's a really popular section in the meeting. We almost always bring food, coffee, stuff like that to the meetings so that, say 25% of the people don't want to necessarily be there, then they're like, all right, I'm getting free tacos this morning. It's a little bit of a perk. Having a time schedule set, itinerary, the software that we use for the meeting that we put up on the big screen actually shows the sections of the meeting. So when people go in, they're not wondering how long is the meeting, what are we going to talk about, how long are the sections. You actually see section 1 segue, we're all going to share a personal thing and a business thing. It's going to take 5 minutes. We're going to review our scorecard. That's going to take 5 minutes. We're going to talk about issues. That's probably going to take 30 minutes if you're doing that properly. So just having the meeting makes sense. The repair team has a weekly meeting. The cleaning team has a weekly meeting. My leadership team has a weekly meeting, and that's me plus the one lead from each department that I have, cleaning, repair, finance. So yeah, the right people in the room for the meeting, and only the meetings that you need, and don't have fluff in there. If say you try a meeting format like Traction, and one of the sections in there for a department doesn't make sense, get it out of there. Right? Don't have sections in the meeting that suck and provide no value, just to do it and just to do it consistently. And if there's something that you would like to add to the meeting, don't be rigid on a format and be like, oh, we can't add that. Add sections to the meeting that make sense. But overall, be consistent yourself as leaders. Show up on time. Don't be the one late to the meetings. Don't be canceling meetings last minute for no good reason. Be consistent, set a time, do it the same time every single week. That's how we do it.
And if it's an all-hands meeting where you have the whole company together, make it fun too, right? Do some stuff to get people engaged, wake them up in the morning. Whether it's I think some of the most memorable meetings we've had back in the Patriot days, usually just had something totally goofy in it. We had a guy who was in the Army that loved yoga, and he's we're going to do yoga to start the day. It was hilarious watching 45 cool people sit there complain and grumble, but everybody all of a sudden is completely engaged. Or have some trivia questions where you're throwing cash out, or we'd have little Mario Kart tournaments to get it kicked off, so everybody's competitive juices are flowing, and then okay, let's get into the real stuff now. So having fun with it. Getting people's brain turned on, even if it is a time of day or place where they don't want their brain turned on, so that then it's active and ready to be used for whatever you want to use it for the company.
Anybody else? I got one more question, Harry, and then I'll open up to the audience. I feel like hiring now is kind of a two-way street, right? Where before we held the cards a lot, now it's kind of they get to pick and choose a little bit of what they want and who they want. Do you have any recommendations on how to play that two-way kind of back and forth?
Yeah, so hiring's definitely been a challenge for a while, in not only in the pool service industry, but just about everywhere. So the big thing is to be able to show what we have to offer, how we're different than the company right down the street, and where we're at. There's companies everywhere that do what we do, and people can bounce around very quickly. So we have to show what is our competitive advantage and why it's important to come work for us. When we look at pool techs, what we want to look at is how long do we think they're going to stay? And we try to design it so that when we hire people, we want them to stay 1 full year. We don't want people to leave after a couple of days or a week or even a month, because the investment in training, right? So we had something called a rookie to ready program. So somebody that didn't have any pool experience, they would go through 30 days of training, 2 weeks of hands-on training with an experienced trainer, 1 week on their own to make all the mistakes they need to make, and then a 4th week where they would go back with the trainer to figure out everything that they needed to learn. So in 30 days, it's a 30-day investment in training. And so when people know that we're investing in them and we're investing in their well-being, they're going to want to come and join the company. The thing is we don't want them to leave. We don't want to hire people with the intention of having them leave, but we also know in today's environment that people aren't going to stay in a position for a lifetime. That just doesn't exist anymore. So we try to target 1 year. If after 1 year they're still doing well and still engaged, we found that they typically then will stay 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years or so in our company. When we bought it, there's still employees that are there today 6 years later, 7 years later. And so it's getting through different humps and showing why we're investing in employees. So that's the biggest thing. The other thing is what do you offer? A number of our companies, or a number of your companies offer really good things, right? Paid training, paid uniforms, benefits, profit sharing, various, nice trucks. There's various things that all of you probably offer, and it's important for candidates to know what you offer and sell it. So in the old days, right, when we first had our company, we had enough candidates that come in. We could be very selective and move through candidates very quickly. Today, we can't be as selective, and so we have to be able to draw people in and sell what we have to offer to bring them in.
And on the interview front, I think, almost everybody traditionally just thinks of the interview as the candidate selling themselves to you as the employer. I don't know, my personal take from the very beginning, and so far it's been very successful. So we've been able to find people like Nathan and Justin Gormley, who runs Texas for us, a good interview's got to be 50-50. It is, we would go through and my team that would interview with me would start to learn the cadence too of like, okay, the first part, we are interviewing the candidate. The candidates are there to sell themselves to us. We're going through all that. If during that sales pitch, it's clear this candidate's not a fit for us, okay, stand up, shake the hand, thank you for coming in, and let's go ahead and end the interview so we're not wasting anybody's time. Of course, I'm not saying that out loud, but that's the motto. I'm not going to waste their time. I don't want to waste my time sitting there selling to somebody I know I don't want to buy what I'm selling. If it was a good candidate, as soon as they're done selling themselves, it immediately flips, where it's a 50-50 split. I'm going to spend just as much time selling to them why they want to come join the team. And it's going to tell the whole story, from where we've been, where we are today, where we're going, and why that person wants to jump on the ride with us and do it. And so to me, that should be the way we all interview. If you want to find the people that really you have alignment with and are going to enjoy working with. A huge piece of that is selling yourself just as much as they're there to sell themselves to you.
And really, that first interview is very important. When somebody's leaving, what a lot of companies don't have the practice of is an exit interview. That is almost just as important as the first interview. I can't tell you how many employees I've saved and they're still on board, do that exit interview. There was something that was bugging them or just eating at them that they never said out loud. Simple answer, simple resolution to fix that situation, and then they stayed. So now you don't have to hire somebody to replace them. You made that employee happy. He's immediately going to go out there, talk to other employees, and go, hey, so-and-so just I'm happy now. I'm staying. So if you have a new hire starting and everybody he's talking to is telling him, I've been here for 2 months, I've been here for 3 months, versus everyone he talks to, I've been here for 6 years, I've been here for 8 years, I've been here for 9 years, they're going to say, this is the place to be. I want to stay here. But if all your employees have been there for 2 months, 3 months, they're going to go, what's wrong? Why is nobody's staying? So that exit interview is extremely important.
Hey, Pool Chasers. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode. To connect with today's guests, including pictures, links, and resources from everything discussed today, you can visit the episode page at poolchasers.com or click the links below. To connect more with us, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter by searching @Pool Chasers. If you would like to support the podcast, the easiest and most effective way is to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, as well as share the show or your favorite episode with a friend or on social media. Also, you can get early access to each episode by supporting us through Patreon. We know your time is valuable, so thank you for sharing some of yours with us today.
See you out there, pool chasers.